This is Andrew Hall, host of Dead Hand Radio. My guest for this sci-fi edition of Dead Hand Radio is Randy from Here on Mars. Randy is a musician and a gamer who is best known for his Apocalyptic brand of electronic rock music. In this episode, Randy and I talk about his beginnings as a musician, his influences and inspirations, and how science fiction has always been a part of his growth and evolution as a musician. We also talk about Randy's other interest, Warhammer 40,000. He breaks down the gameplay, how the entire franchise has transformed throughout the years, and the important role it has played in his life. We talk about other topics as well, including some of our favorite movies, and how the sci-fi and horror genres are so easily blended for a completely wild ride in movies like Alien and Event Horizon. Then Randy shares an experience he had during a mission trip he was on in Africa that left his blood cold and has stuck with him ever since. So strap in, dear listener, and prepare for a ride on the sci-fi rocket train.
This is Randy from Here on Mars, and you're listening to Dead Hand Radio.
So welcome to Dead Hand Radio. Glad you could make it.
I appreciate you having me, and just been looking forward to it ever since you suggested it, man. And I'm just happy to be here. Love the stuff you talk about. It really kind of hits home with me in a way. It's hard to explain. Other than that, I was born in 1980 and remember a lot of the different types of stuff you talk about.
That's awesome, man. Well, I'm glad you said that, and I appreciate you saying that, and I'm glad that it's resonating with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know, man. Like when I listen to it, like certain podcasts I listen to, especially your I guess your co-conspirators on the network there, like Dave and Andy and all those guys on there. Whenever I listen to any of your podcasts, it's like it really is like being in there, and you really want to contribute to the conversation. So every chance I get to come on one of your podcasts, it's awesome.
Oh, that's fantastic to hear. And just for anybody who's listening, who's curious about what you're talking about, that's the Slightly Irregular Podcast Network, also known as the SIP Network. Mm-hmm. And it's a group of podcasters, myself included, who just decided one day we were going to work together to help each other, encourage each other, spread the word, promote one another, and just all of us try to grow as podcasters and as people. And it's been an awesome ride. I enjoy it. I totally appreciate everything those guys do.
Yeah, all very positive people. Always an encouraging word. Never. I don't know. It's just refreshing. In a lot of the circles I'm in online, there's lots of, there's always stuff that you don't like about, kind of the negative side of interacting online. And I think, between, you, Dave, Evan, Ben, Pat, Terrible Terror, all those guys. Everybody's super positive. There's never a negative word said, and it kind of inspires me to not be such a jerk sometimes.
Oh, that's cool, man. That's a cool thing to say. Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, I think a few of those guys listen to this, and I'll make sure that each and every one of them hears what you had to say about that.
Yeah, of course, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. So if you don't mind, we've known each other on Twitter for, at least a year, right? Maybe even longer than that. I don't know exactly when we first connected, but
yeah, Yeah, about that long, and it would have been through Evan.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep.
Uh,
He
yeah,
turned me on to your music, and I was like, wait, I'm already connected with this dude.
yeah,
I should check it out. So, um, and I dig your music, man.
I
If I could say anything about you in a positive light, uh, without really knowing you as a person,
sure.
I would say that your music is inspiring and it's unique and it's really cool to listen to and to know somebody who makes that kind of music. I'm happy to know you, man.
Uh, Geez, dude, that's high praise. I mean, I feel the same way. When I look at your photographs, dude, I'm just like, wow. And your design, and like even your design for the sci-fi month, or is it the month sci-fi month?
Sci-fi November.
Yeah, the design, the logo. It's not even like a logo. It's like I guess like the banner is what I would call it. I just saw that and I was like, man, that's cool. And
Right on.
and the photos and all of that, man, like all the the places of like old remains and skeletons of buildings and stuff I've seen you put up are super cool, man. And I think it's in general, that other circle, it's like a big Venn diagram basically, but like that other circle that's specifically focused on the post-apocalyptic stuff. So much talent and cool, just cool people, talented photographers, um, and authors and all that stuff. It really is, it's inspiring for sure.
Oh, or yeah, you're talking about the post-apocalyptic community on Twitter that I'm connected with, right? Or that we're both connected with.
Yeah,
Because
basically,
hey, you're contributing to that post-apocalyptic Friday too, once in a while, aren't you?
I try to, man. Like I the apocalypse has played such a huge part in my life, that like it definitely comes through in a lot of like music I do. I've got an album that's you know dedicated to it pretty much. I mean, and kind of like a
Isn't it called techno apocalyptic or something like that?
apocalyptic electro rock.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I knew it had apocalyptic in there somewhere.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I always just called the style of music I make electro rock because I couldn't think of anything better to describe it. And um, just it's not even like a newer one. It's I guess it came out last year. So I guess that's new-ish. It's coming up on 2 years old, but definitely feeling apocalyptic. Not, don't want to get into any of the reasons why, but feeling apocalyptic. But it's always been a theme in my life. Stuff that's been in the back of my mind ever since I was a little kid. Really weird, you know.
Well, I definitely want to get into that, but before we move on, one suggestion that I have for you is when we do the post-apocalyptic Friday, that is an open hashtag for anybody who wants to contribute. And all we ask is that you contribute something, whether it's photo, a little story. Um, what you could do is submit one of your songs,
Mm-hmm.
and just write a little intro how that song is related to the theme for that week.
Sure. Yeah. I think I did. I think I did it one time, or it might have been the Wasteland Wednesday. I think that was when was the, is that the other one, Wasteland Wednesday?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we do Wasteland Wednesday as well.
Yeah, it might have been that one, but I will totally be watching for it and seeing, once I know what the theme is, you know, um, finding one of the songs and kind of introducing it for sure, man.
Cool. Yeah, so let's get into that a little bit more about your backstory and how the theme of the post-apocalyptic world, as a result of the Cold War, has had an impact in your life.
Mm-hmm. Um, Man, just in, I'm sure it was all as a result of the Cold War at the time. But at an early age, it's really weird. I don't remember exactly how, but at an early age, um, I was introduced to like the whole idea of like um, the apocalypse. I think I saw it in some movie, some kids movie, not really kids movie. It was probably like PG-13 in the 80s or so. But I was telling Evan about this. It was some movie where they were traveling in time and they jumped to this point in the future, and everything was kind of like in ruins, and there was some crazy looking dude like all decked out like Mad Max. And um, I'll never forget, like my friend, we were watching, I was probably 9 or 10, and I was staying the night at my friend's house. And after that scene was over, it was like just a flash in the movie, the way I remember it. And after the scene was over, I was like, what was that? And my friend's dad was like, oh, that was after the apocalypse. And I was like, the what? I'd never heard the word before. And that just kind of started me, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have anything like that. So it kind of just started me down this trail of like always wondering about it, and asking asking adults in my life about it. They probably thought I was insane, because what 9 or 10 year old kid has an obsession with the apocalypse? And um when I first heard about like biblical prophecies and stuff, then it took a whole it took a whole new life that was just a backdrop for my whole growing up. But I would say what probably provided the strongest visuals were Terminator and Terminator 2. Because Terminator 2 came out, what was that, like 90, 91 or something like that, when I was 10 or 11. And I couldn't see it right away because my parents were still like, no, you're not seeing an R-rated movie. But it wasn't that long before I saw it. And I just remember just watching the scenes from those movies over and over and over, when it would like flash to the future and show like the war, or when when Sarah Connor has that vision in Terminator 2 and you see the friggin' mushroom cloud go up and the flash. And oh man, it just stuck with me, man. And I'm sure that those movies were a result of all of the tension that was, going on during those times. I've never actually looked into that, but I imagine they were. Yeah, I imagine you probably know one way or the other too. But
Well, no, to be honest with you, I have not. Um, I have not studied specific movies, but as a whole, the entire genre of science fiction, actually, even more than that, the entire creative world was affected by the events of the Cold War for multiple generations. Just because there was such a fear, an underlying fear that
mm,
the world is going to end
yeah,
in a nuclear holocaust at some point.
yeah,
So that that had a major effect on the psyche of people from all walks of life, and it did permeate throughout the creative arts. You see it in movies, like you said. You see it in books. I had a conversation with. Um, have you ever seen the movie The Mortal Engines?
no, but that's a cool sounding name.
Oh, yeah, it is a cool sounding name, and I haven't seen the movie either, but I had the author for that book on the podcast Sunday, and I was talking with him about exactly what you and I are talking about.
Mhm.
And he said that, yeah, before the 1940s, within pop culture and within even science fiction. Now, science fiction had a little bit of the hint of apocalyptic worlds. You didn't see as much of it until the late 40s, the end of World War II, and the start of the conflict between Soviet Union and the West.
Mhm.
So once that started to happen and started to take off, and nuclear proliferation became really out of control, where both sides were building up their arsenals
Mhm.
to an unbelievable number of nuclear weapons. That's when it really started to, like, you started seeing The Last Man, um, which was also made into a couple of different movies, books like that. And then, um, you know, throughout the entire scope of the Cold War, you just see so many works of fiction that reflect that post-apocalyptic world.
Yeah, I do remember. I mean, the first 10 years of my life were basically the last part of it. But I mean, I think we were even talking about, on Twitter, um, we were even talking about like the 90s and all the conflicts with the breakaway republics, from the USSR. I mean, uh, you know, my parents, my mom would talk about, what it was like in the, I guess technically it goes back to I mean, it's after World War II, right? When we kind of, after all of that, all the World War II stuff was said and done, there was kind of like a backing away from the Soviet Union, and the lines were drawn, it seems like. And my mom would, tell me about just different, drills they had to do in school. And like, she said, yeah, it was freaky, having to do like, air raid, like drills and just weird stuff like that. Uh, I don't remember anything like that in the 80s, but I do remember like the idea of like the USSR being like this like evil like specter, you know what I mean? Like kind of just this dark, depressing place, how it was portrayed and stuff. And I mean, to be honest with you, a lot of their architecture kind of does bear that out when I see it. But I definitely remember that vibe in the 80s. Yeah, crazy stuff.
Totally. You're right on point with everything you just said.
Good.
Those yeah, the first of all, yeah, as soon as World War II ended, the Russians, or the Soviet Union, and the United States and Great Britain were at odds with each other. They didn't trust each other.
Yeah.
Stalin knew that the US had the nuclear bomb at that time,
Yeah.
and he wanted it desperately. And he was um, he's really uh, pissed off with the U.S. for not sharing the technology.
Yeah.
So he stole it. There were spies in the Manhattan Project that handed over majority of the plans to get the Soviet Union on track to develop their own nuclear weapon.
Crazy. I'll never
Yeah.
forget. I saw a picture, and this may not have even been that long ago. I think this was kind of I think this was maybe even back in, what was it, 2014, when the Crimea thing happened.
Yes.
Um,
I think that's right.
yeah,
2018 or 2014.
something like that. It's hard to keep it all together anymore. The more the years go on, but I'll never forget, the most Russian thing I've ever seen was just them doing one of their parades with this massive missile on a truck, and on the missile in their language, it literally said, "After me, silence." And I was like, that is the most sinister Russian looking like type of display I think I've ever seen. Like, just reminded me of Ivan Drago, just in its simple like brutality, and definitely took me back to those feelings I had when I would hear about them, in social studies in grade school and stuff.
Yeah, they did have some scary technology, and uh, the U.S. had their share of frightening, terrifying technology as well. They just didn't parade it around the streets like that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
And it's a psychological operation. They call it psyops, and basically it's saying, it's like pointing your gun at somebody. You pull out your gun and you point it at somebody, they're going to be on guard. They're going to instantly be either scared for their life and pleading for mercy, or they're going to go arm up and get ready for a fight.
yeah. Just in general, like that whole like it brings to mind another term from the era. I'm pretty sure this term is from the era, but mutually assured destruction is one that comes to mind. I remember hearing that as a kid, and I'm like, what? That's so metal. That sounds insane, but it's like, it's crazy, man. It's just weird to think that, a whole, 30-40 years went by with these missiles pointed at each other, and as far as we know, just a handful of times where it really came down to there being a possibility that someone was going to push the button. Wasn't there like a Cuba thing?
Yes.
Yeah, that was one thing I specifically remember my mom telling me about. She was like, no, that was freaky. Like we were right on the edge there.
Yeah, I've talked to a few people who were alive at that time, and they thought it was over. They really thought that there was going to be no tomorrow.
Hard
It's
to
hard. It's kind of hard to imagine, a feeling of dread and doom like that, thinking that you're not going to wake up tomorrow morning.
it really is, man. Like I've spent so much of my life experiencing just fear and anxiety, and I feel bad saying this, but I've voiced this before, and sometimes I've wondered, like, if that were to happen and I knew it was coming. This sounds awful, but sometimes I've thought that there would be in some weird way, there would be like relief at finally knowing, that it's like, okay, here it comes. But no, I'm pretty sure it would not be a good feeling knowing it was coming. And yeah, to go back to what you were saying earlier, to constantly be living under the fear of that, it really would affect you overall. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're a creative person, you use that fear in a creative way. Now,
Mhm.
sometimes that creative outlet is a positive outlet, and other times it's a negative outlet.
Yeah.
So you get a utopia style writing in science fiction, but you also get the dystopian or the post-apocalyptic version of the science fiction. So people deal with that kind of stress on different levels.
It's hard. It's good to stay positive, man. Like, even in the face of everything that's happening. In fact, like I have a thing I always say: I can laugh or I can cry, or you know what I mean? And I choose to laugh, man. I really do. When things just get crazy and it's just like one thing after another, I laugh. Like, I just start laughing because I'm like, you know, well, how are we going to get through this one? We'll just see what happens. So,
Yeah, and you have to do something to sit there and wallow in sorrow and just let the circumstances around you control your emotions and in effect your actions. See, even if you're locked down in your house
mhm.
and you can't go outside, you still have control over your emotions.
Yeah,
So you do things that are positive. Go do some push-ups, do some jumping jacks,
push up.
You
Great.
got to have some exercise to get the blood flowing,
Mm.
and then read a book. Don't sit there and watch the news, man. That's the last thing people should look
Worst,
at
worst.
is watching the news.
Yeah,
Don't talk to other people who are going to bring you down. Just don't, you know. Don't get into unnecessary arguments with the people that care about you and are looking out for your best interest. You know,
mhm.
just those are not things that are helpful to you or anyone else. So there are measures that you can take no matter how helpless you feel,
Sure.
that you can stay mentally fit, and if you stay mentally fit, you'll get through this.
Yeah, I agree. 100%, man. I feel like the mind has just certain situations I've been in. I feel like the mind has I feel like everybody has the ability to do it. There comes a point where your mind says, okay, I don't have the luxury of despair right now. You know what I mean? And I think it comes a little more naturally for some than others, but you know, I've experienced it. I don't have the luxury of a panic attack right now. I don't have the luxury of anxiety or all this other stuff, and when people can believe that, even if they just believe that there's a chance that's true, it makes all the difference in the world in their circumstances, their mental health circumstances. So, yeah, and I'm always trying to like keep an eye out, like at my workplace, just in my life, people I talk to. If I see somebody struggling, I don't ever try to like get into problem solving with them, but I just say, look, man, like I totally get it. I'm sorry you're having to deal with this. If there's anything I can do to help you through when you're dealing with one of these, types of moments, I'm happy to do it.
That's cool. Yeah, I think it kind of takes somebody who has been through that, uh, has had moments like that to be able to understand and empathize with somebody who is currently going through that.
Yeah.
I had um, a really, uh, just like a slap in the face
Mm-hmm.
the other day because my wife had cancer 4 years ago,
Ah,
and she made it through. She went through the chemotherapy, the radiation, and all that stuff, and she made it through. And she is a super strong person, the strongest person I know,
mm-hmm.
mentally, physically. She's just unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
And you wonder, why does a good person go through something like that? Why, and there is no answer, right? But then 2 weeks ago or something like that, two of her friends shared with her that they have cancer now. And she was able to talk to them from a perspective of experience
Mm-hmm.
and share with them what she was going through at that time in her life. And they could totally relate to what she had gone through and where she's at now. And where she's at now gave those people hope.
That's all.
And hope is the most important thing that somebody can hang on to.
Yeah.
Just find something that you can just grasp, that little piece of hope,
Mm-hmm.
and hold on to it for dear life, man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, if you could pick a song to play right here and give me permission to play it.
Yeah.
Tell me what song that is, and I'll go ahead and cue it up.
I would say, oh man, I would say if you did Ride the Waves is a song that I really like that one.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, then do you want to talk about that song and give it a little bit of an intro?
So the song's called Ride the Waves, and it's off the Apocalyptic electro rock record. And every song on that EP is kind of just rooted in, the apocalypse in some form or another. And Ride the Waves is kind of about just watching. If you just picture yourself floating in space, watching things transpire on Earth, kind of knowing eventually the outcome, is there, the end is coming, kind of that type of thing. It also kind of hints at some lore from like Warhammer 40,000 and stuff, if there's any fans of that. Talks about the warp a little bit, which is kind of a whole nother, if you want to get sci-fi there, that's my bag. But yeah, it's a mellow song. It's a dark song. I like the guitar parts. It's also inspired. There's certain bits in it that are inspired by my friendship with Evan. And so, yeah, it's a
very cool. Nice shout out to Evan.
Yeah, I'll shout out that guy.
I tried to change my ways, and I tried to act my age. I don't understand the light, but just the guiding hand. It guides me, shows me my place among the wastes. Hoping something made of ash and dust not tries to reach the other side. Scribbles on this sign are all I feel flow from me. Some will feel, some will see. None shall grasp what they won't reach. Some will wait on earth to turn. Others know it's bound to burn. Out here in outer space, underneath the wicked ways, we float while terror burns. Taste the warmth, the great wheel turns. Riding the waves, riding the waves. It was always too late, I'm so sorry to say. For the ones who think that they're free of the sway of the winds and the waves and the threads of the fates. Hoping something made of ash grasp what they won't reach. Some wait on Earth to turn. We know it's gonna burn. Out here in outer space, underneath the wicked waste. We float while terror burns. Taste the warp, the great wheel turns. Riding the waves. Riding the waves. Riding the waves. Riding the waves.
And that was Ride the Waves by Here on Mars. Nice song, dude. So you mentioned Warhammer 40,000. Is that a tabletop role-playing game?
Started as a tabletop role-playing game. The way I would describe Warhammer 40,000 is Lord of the Rings in space, more or less. My favorite. It started as a tabletop game back in like 86 or 87. It was more like RPG type of thing, but it's basically at this point you have an army of guys, and you fight your friend's army of guys. In fact, me and Andy from Black Cat Shadow, and his new podcast escapes me, but me and him, basically we would get together on Sundays and we called it the Church of 40K, and we would battle each other. And before all this COVID stuff happened, and the lore behind Warhammer 40,000 is absolutely it is some of the coolest stuff that I've ever read. And I haven't read a lot of stuff, but I have read a lot of Warhammer 40,000 stuff.
Are you talking novels, books?
Yeah. So I mean, at first, like they just had their backstory to the game, and I'm sure it borrows heavily. I mean, I know it borrows heavily from like Tolkien and H.P. Lovecraft. Some of that stuff. What's the guy's name? Is it Robert Howard? I'm trying to remember the fantasy writer. I've never.
Are you talking about Heinlein?
It might be. He was a contemporary of H.P. Lovecraft's, I think, and he wrote like fantasy, type stuff. But the background to it was originally just in the books that kind of fleshed out the game a little bit, and at some point they started writing novels, and there's so many books. I've got like 50 of them like on my bookshelf over here. Like I just can't get enough of the universe.
That's cool. Well, let's dig into that, man. How much time do you have?
Plenty.
Yeah. Let's get into Warhammer 40,000 and get some new people turned on to that, man, because that sounds like it's a tabletop role-playing game.
Yep.
I do know that people build miniatures, or they paint miniatures or something like that.
Build them. They're most of the new ones are in plastic, and they when we were coming up, in the 90s, like when I first got turned on to it, if you bought a box set, like you would buy like a 2-player battle box is what they call it, and it just comes with a small force of 2 armies, so 2 players could play against each other, and the rule book and stuff. They were plastic, and the plastic in the beginning was not super detailed. There wasn't like a variety in like a lot of like the positions. It would be like one or two positions, if you know what I mean, poses for the figures, for the minis as we call them.
But you would have like different figures for the different character, or is it kind of like a chess game where you go head to head with each other, or how's it work?
Yeah, I mean, and you can have more than one player, but most of the time it's two players, and you just set up your battlefield like on a table. Usually, like for a really small game, even just like a 4x4 table would work, but ideally like a 4x8 table. And you just place different terrain. You build your own terrain. All the movement is done with like a tape measure, and I mean, you just move your squads around, and you've got different types of, you've got squads of grunts, you've got squads of like elite warriors, you've got characters, you've got massive like vehicles that have huge like cannons on them, and just all kinds of stuff, man. You've got different capabilities in the different races that you play as, I guess. And yeah, there's psychic abilities, which would be like, your wizard type stuff, casting spells. It's psychic in Warhammer 40K. But the cool thing about it is there's playing the game. So, there's people who are into just getting the guys and playing the game. And then there are people who are more into the modeling and painting aspect. And then there are people who are into the reading, and the lore aspect. And that is it just, I could spend hours talking about it. And there's hours and hours of stuff just on YouTube about the lore. I kind of like all three. I definitely like the lore the most. I like modeling and painting second, and I like getting together and having like just fun games where you basically just laugh like at it's just funny. There's a certain humor to it. But overall, the IP itself, the universe of Warhammer 40,000 is extremely extremely grim and dark. In fact, it gave birth to a term, grim dark. You will hear people say, "Oh, that is totally grim dark," and it's because for the longest time, the motto for Warhammer 40K has been, "In the grim darkness of the 41st millennium, there is only war." And so, yeah, the main race, I guess you would say, is the main faction would be the Empire, which is humanity. And by the 41st millennium, humanity has created an empire across the galaxy. But it's definitely in its waning. It's definitely not a strong empire. There's all kinds of things going on. There's different other alien groups that are constantly a threat to the empire. There is empire. There is a heretic race of humans who have basically, how do I put it? They've turned towards the dark powers, and the dark powers are called the chaos gods. And I'm a chaos guy. I've got a bunch of chaos figures and stuff, and they're some of my favorite characters because, like so many things, when you first hear about them, they're these awful bad guys. But then when you learn more about the reason why they are the way they are, some of them, it becomes more understandable. It turns into like a Walter White type of thing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And so
Breaking Bad reference for anybody who didn't catch that.
Exactly. There's so much that fleshes out the story that by now there's just been so many books written that are novels, audiobooks, all that different type of stuff. I mean, in fact, the series that I have 50 books of is the series that tells how the whole situation in the 41st millennium came to be. And I would liken it, for people that I'm trying to describe that whole series of events to, I liken it to, you know, how in Star Wars 4, 5, and 6, we knew, you eventually knew that there was this guy, Anakin Skywalker, who was good, and he turned into Darth Vader, right?
Right.
You kind of knew that happened, and you knew enough to inform you to get through those movies. And then they came along afterwards and fleshed it out. That's what the Warhammer 40,000, the kind of the analog to that is something called the Horus Heresy. And it's basically the 31st millennium stuff that happened 10,000 years prior to the quote current time, which there's just tons of books and stuff written about. And so I've only read that stuff. I haven't even read the massive amount of books that are in the 41st millennium, you know? So it's just such a rich and detailed universe that I don't know, man. The first time I saw the figures as a kid, I was like hooked. And, you know, there's no one to play that game with where I grew up. And so I didn't, you know, it didn't last. But over the years, as it kept going and going and going, I would just get bored from time to time and look it up on my phone and just read about different stuff. And then, oh gosh, like 2015 or so, I gotta admit, there was a bit of shame, but I went to my wife and I was like, hey, look, like there's this thing.
So I get that, man, you know, and hey, it's funny though, because it's geek culture, and it's something that is now a lot more readily accepted than it was in the 80s, the 70s. I don't even know if it existed in the 70s, but in the early 80s, when I first got introduced to Dungeons and Dragons, man, that was like a thing.
Mm-hmm.
And but I was like a closet Dungeon and Dragoner.
It was not cool.
So I totally get what you're talking about, keeping it on the down low and being a little bit, you know, being a little bit embarrassed to go talk to your wife about it.
Well, and I'm just like, how am I going to tell her that I want to spend this much money on a bunch of little plastic men? But no, my wife is, man, it's like you said, you're what, you know, just, my wife's so cool, man. And she supports me in all of my like hobbies and my stuff that's not hobbies, like music. Like to you, photography is not a hobby to you. I look at like what you do and I'm like, this guy's serious. Like you enjoy it. And I mean, I think it would be amazing if you made a living doing that. I don't know if you do or not. I don't make any money doing music, but it's not a hobby, you know?
I feel you. Yeah. And no, photography is not a profession for me, but I do take it way more seriously than I do a hobby.
Dude, just looking at your photos, yeah, it's not a hobby.
Thank you.
Know? And that's it. But to me, this is my hobby, you know, because like music is I have fun and I just love making music, man. And I'm always going to do it and I can never stop. But this, I can just throw on a podcast or a stream or some music and I can just stare at this little plastic guy and sink a bunch of time into just making it look as good as I can. And it's nice. Or I can just escape by reading a novel about a place that's way worse than anything we've dealt with. And so, and still find hope in that, man. Even that's the other cool thing about this. It is very Lovecraft inspired. When I think of H.P. Lovecraft, I think of just absolute hopelessness and insignificance in the face of like the cosmos. You know what I mean? That's what I think of when I think of Lovecraft. And there is some of that in this, but there is still just this thread. There is a thread of hope through the whole thing that persists, and it's so good.
Yeah, so there are many different facets that people can get involved in if they're interested. But how long ago did this game come out? Or first of all, did it start as a game or as a series of novels?
So it started oh man, and I'm gonna mess my history up a little bit. It started as more of a RPG, kind of like Dungeons and Dragons. Like you were more like a single player type of thing. With you had a single character type of thing. The way I understand it, it was called Rogue Trader, and there was just like a single book that was made, I want to say in like 86 or 87, by a company called, I don't know if they were called Games Workshop back then or if they were called Citadel, but the company that owns the whole IP is Games Workshop, and they own the company that makes the minis, and it's called Citadel Miniatures, and they had previously made minis for like different games like Dungeons and Dragons and stuff like that. And so they started doing their own thing. And I don't know, I think it was like maybe a couple years later, it actually turned into Warhammer 40,000 is what it turned into. And they put out the first proper, like what you would call a battle box that had like squads of Space Marines. And I think, oh man, if I'm not mistaken, like the first or second edition of Warhammer 40,000, whatever came out with the battle box first, you had a squad of Space Marines. So those are the superhuman soldiers of the Empire. And then the other squad was either Eldar, which are basically space elves, more or less. It was either Eldar or it was orcs. Orcs are a faction in Warhammer 40K. They're kind of the comic relief.
Like 1986, 87, it came out as an RPG where people were just player to player type of thing with somebody who would run the game, like a game master type of thing situation.
I think so. I don't know a whole heck a lot about I don't know a whole lot about the first iteration of it. I just know it was called Rogue Trader, and it kind of got the whole thing started, but it wasn't like it is now. Definitely not like it is now.
It seems like it's a whole universe. Now, it's kind of weird to me. Is it also an online video game?
There are a bunch of video games now for it. I don't know when the first games came out, when they started making the first like video games for it. Probably the 90s, dude. Like I bet if I checked and I went and looked back, there's all these like Splinter games that are kind of spin off of 40K, if that makes sense. Like in the 90s, they came out with just this game called Space Hulk. And a Space Hulk is just a derelict, like fragment of an old ship that's floating in space. And it's colonized by this one particular race of aliens called Tyranids. And Tyranids are basically, they're a ripoff of aliens, like Sigourney Weaver aliens. They're kind of like that. And Space Hulk is like a separate game where you just play a group of these, they're called Space Marine Terminators. They're basically like walking tanks in these giant suits of armor. And you go to these Space Hulks and basically just fight all these Tyranids and basically purge them from the spaceship. Because if you don't, and they land on a planet, then they will completely take over that planet. That's just, because they're like aliens. And
well, yeah. It certainly sounds like this is something that you're passionate about, man.
Yeah, dude. But what my point was, I think they made a video game about that in the very beginning, and there have been so many video games that have come out since then. I've played one, probably the most well-known one is called Space Marine. And you're basically a like a captain in in the main chapter of Space Marines called the Ultramarines. They're kind of the poster boys. They're always on the cover of everything. They're like the Mario of the Space Marines or of the Warhammer 40K. And you play as one of those guys fighting off an orc invasion on a planet, and it's kind of Gears of War style if you've played that game. Kind of
No, I am not much of a gamer these days, and I have not been a gamer for quite a while. I still haven't like a passing interest in all these things because of the connection to science fiction. I just don't have the time, and I also don't have the community around me that I can go sit down face to face and play.
Yeah.
So online games, I used to play World of Warcraft, but that's because another friend got me into it, and then I met a couple of other people online. But I just got tired of that game, and so I quit playing that, and I haven't really played any other games since then. I did play the original Fallout and the first couple of iterations of that. I loved the Fallout world.
Yeah. I love seeing our friends' screenshots of those games. I just think it's the coolest thing, like, they kind of got their whole like place set up, and they're always talking about trying to find ammo or whatever, different things.
Oh yeah, it's a totally different game. I've never even played the new version of it.
Gotcha.
But it's a totally different game than from what I played.
Gotcha.
So it would be something like, what you're explaining to me about Warhammer 40K. I know nothing about it. It's the same way I know nothing about the new Fallout gaming system. Yeah. Other than it's a post-apocalyptic world, the graphics are killer,
pretty amazing.
Now, is Warhammer, because it seems like it's a pretty massive community of people that are interested in this. Do they have conventions and things like that where people get together?
Yeah, they do, man. You can pretty much always count on some sort of presence at any kind of like sci-fi con, or I'm pretty sure like even Comic-Con and things like that. I've never been to one of those things. That's not, it would be interesting. I've never been to a Trek Con, anything like that. But there is a huge community for Warhammer 40K, though it's still like this thing that's kind of under the radar. Like most people, I think by now a lot of people have heard of it, especially if you play games or if you are anything that's kind of adjacent to Warhammer 40K. Like if you're huge into, I don't know, like Star Wars or different things like that, more than just a casual, then I think you probably heard of it. But there've been no movies. The people always talk about, if there was a movie, who would you cast as this and this and this? And the fan base is rabid. You know how people are. They would be like, don't screw this up. So,
well, because it's happened so many times. The Warcraft movie that came out was a bit of a disappointment. I thought it was pretty cool, but the gamers who are really purists, a lot of them hated on that movie so bad. I don't even know if they're gonna make another movie.
Yeah, and I'm bad at watching movies, man. I should check it out. Like, I'm sure I'd like it, just because I like that type of fantasy type stuff. You know what I mean?
It's a good movie. The visual effects are they're amazing. And as far as following the storyline, I am not that much of a purist. So I don't know that they veered off the original storyline that drastically or not, but it was a good movie. I liked it.
Yeah, absolutely. What's funny to me is like kind of along that conversation, I like the prequels. You know what I mean? Like, I
Oh
like
yeah, a lot of people do. You're talking about the Star Wars.
Star
prequels.
Wars. Yeah, I like the prequels, man. And yeah, there was things about them that, of course, at the time we were like, ooh, yeah, cringe, maybe here or there, but nothing's perfect. I mean, when I go back and watch the originals, I'm like, okay, come on. It's like we cut them slack here. I love the prequels, man. I love seeing the story. I love seeing. I'm weird. I don't mind spoilers, and I love just seeing how things are fleshed out, even if I know the outcome. And to me, the prequels were like the ultimate like experience of that.
I like the prequels as well. Some of the acting was a little bit stiff.
Oh yeah,
It does have its downfalls,
100.
but I think that they're going to completely cut those three movies out of the canon for the storyline. This is something that I've heard. I don't know for sure, but
It's a mistake, man.
oh yeah, why would they do? They've already went back and developed all these backstories for these characters. There's no need to cut that stuff out
Yeah.
unless there is a dramatic change that they have not revealed going forward. And I don't know even what that could be.
Well, I mean, everybody knows. I don't know what they're hoping to do, because everybody knows that Jar Jar has been.
Yeah, that was the worst part of that whole, you know, that they could have cut that dude out of there. That guy made no sense. He wasn't even a comic relief, in my opinion.
It was bad. It was really bad.
So, but yeah, besides that, I really did enjoy those three movies, and mainly because I'm such a fan of Star Wars, the whole franchise. I was like, I can suspend my disbelief and my criticism of these films because I'm such a fan
Yeah.
of this entire world, man. This world is just so unique and interesting.
Mhm. Yeah.
And if I could live in that universe, I would.
Yeah.
100%. I would totally. And I'd be a Jedi, man.
It's very Wild West.
I would want to be a Jedi, that is. I don't know if I would,
Wanna
be able to develop the psychic abilities that the Jedis have, but
you would definitely want to be a Jedi, because at least you can like handle yourself, not get afraid. I think that was I think Obi-Wan definitely my favorite of all the like Jedi characters, and I think it's just because he doesn't get rattled. You know what I mean? But I loved what they did in the prequels. I thought Ewan McGregor was awesome as Obi-Wan, and I thought it was like just perfect how he played him. He was a little bit younger, a little bit more like prone to getting a little irritated here or there, but I could totally see that guy turning into Alec McGinnis, the old man Obi-Wan.
I think it's Guinness.
Guinness, yeah.
Alec Guinness.
Guinness, yeah. Totally could see him turning into that, man. And the fact that they were talking about doing more Obi-Wan movies with Ewan McGregor, that got me.
I think they're talking about doing a series now.
Heck yeah.
Wouldn't that be cool? That would be.
It would.
Please do that, Disney, because Disney owns that whole franchise now.
I've never watched The Mandalorian, but everyone says it's like the greatest like thing to come out since.
It's a fun ride. The visual effects are beautiful. It's Star Wars in the 21st century. You know what I mean? It's the you take when you first saw Star Wars. I don't know, how old were you when you first saw it?
Oh, probably like it would have been like it was when I never saw like original run in theaters because I was like really young, or not born. And
my point is, do you remember that just
first, yeah, probably 8 or 9.
That feeling of like, man, this is something different, completely different and special, and I want to live in that universe. Yeah, that's exactly how I felt when I first saw it, and that's what they captured in this series, The Mandalorian,
That's cool.
but with upgraded technology to make all of the visual effects, all the animated characters look so much more real than a puppet. That was great. The Yoda puppet,
Mm-hmm.
fantastic. And those little animatronics characters that they had in the original movies,
Yeah.
all of that stuff was fantastic. But when they do it in CGI, it just comes across a lot smoother, a lot more realistic looking. Um,
Yeah.
so, and again, there are purists who love those original movies and say that that's the way uh, that special effects should be done. They should be practical effects. Well, I agree, but I disagree because I think a combination of the two is the best way to go.
It's just different tools in your possession, and there's gonna be times where I'm not a movie maker or a visual effects person, but if it's like everything else, there's gonna be times where one is gonna work more for various reasons than the other. I mean, and it could be budget, it could be the way it looks like on the screen, or I think it's silly to, I mean, as a person who doesn't make movies, it doesn't make sense to me to be like, why do they do this?
Mhm.
But I will say that and this was with regard to the prequels, they did say that, and when you watch it, there's so much CGI in those prequels that I feel like it looks a little bit crazy in some of the stuff on the prequels, and I heard also that that may have contributed to some of the acting things being kind of weird, because you got these people are like, they're not interacting with an actual model or anything that's right there with them. They're just in front of a green screen. And
Well, some of that's true, but and also some of that CGI. I mean, that was at the beginning
exactly.
of that technology, so it was still brand new and it wasn't perfected. But if you watch The Mandalorian,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard to distinguish. Like, there's a little character played by Nick Nolte. I recognized the voice. I was like, man, that voice sounds familiar, but I didn't like pinpoint who the actor was. And this little dude is probably 2 or 3 feet tall. You know, there ain't no way you're gonna get a puppet to look as good as that animation, that 3D animation looks.
Yeah.
And it's just, the technology has come so far, and the skill level of the people using the technology is at a level that is unbelievable. And the fact that it's a TV series, it's either 8 or 10 episodes, and each episode is like 40 minutes. So it's not quite 10 hours, but it's a lot of fun, and it's worth it. Do you have Disney Plus?
Well, yes, I do. I
Because
just
that's the only place you can get it.
exactly. And the funny thing is, like, now that I finished up school, I actually have the time to like watch something like that. So,
Nice.
oh yeah. So I probably will be doing that.
Oh, you're gonna have to do that and then go on somebody's podcast and talk about it, man, because
Yeah, right. So would I'm taking it Star Wars would be the sci-fi one, that would be kind of your main one.
as far as my favorite science fiction movie or
Property or whatever.
world.
Yeah, universe, I guess. Or
So, I'm gonna cop out. I am gonna say I don't have a favorite because I have so many favorites that I can't pick one above the other.
yeah.
I love the Blade Runner universe, which I love that whole the visuals that you get from the Blade Runner.
Watching that old movie, like, and you're just like, when you think about what year was it made? Was it like 80, or was it, I don't know what year?
I think it was 84 when it came out.
I mean, that movie is amazing, man.
Yeah.
It's what they made happen was cool. You know?
Actually, I think it might have been 82. So I'm gonna look that up. Blade Runner. 82. Yeah, it was 82.
Yeah, and this is gonna. I mean, look, I don't have a lot of sci-fi street cred anyway, but I didn't see that movie until probably like 10 years ago. It's just there's lots of movies, lots of classics that some that I still haven't seen, and that was one of them, man. And when I watched it, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is mind-blowingly cool.
As far as I think earliest influences, it was either Star Wars, because that came out in 1977, or Alien, the original Alien.
Yeah.
Now, Alien is more of a horror movie.
Yeah.
But so I think earliest influence in the sci-fi genre would be Star Wars by far. So that has been my longest standing area of interest when it comes to, and when I was a kid, you couldn't get me to talk about anything but Star Wars.
Yeah.
So, but then a Blade Runner came along, and the whole Alien franchise, Predator, there's just a ton. Even Back to the Future, man. That
100.
That whole franchise is excellent.
Going back to what you were saying, like I feel like sci-fi and horror is one of the coolest like blends you can get. 40K definitely has a large like horror aspect to it. But probably the movie that whenever people bring it up, I can't, I mean, I'm sure you gathered this by now, but some things come up and I just can't resist, telling them everything about it, is Event Horizon. Did you ever see that flick?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Love that. Well, okay. So I have mixed feelings about that, but when I first saw it, I thought it was a cool movie, but it was something I did not expect it to be.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, it came out when I was like 17, and it screwed with me so bad.
Me too. Totally, man. When you're talking about visuals, visuals in that movie, I remember scenes in the original version of that movie.
Yeah.
I don't think that they exist anymore. I think they might have taken some of that. Really?
Well,
you know this for a fact?
Well, so okay, when they first did the cut of that movie to like test it with people, it had some stuff in it that was so disturbing at the time that they ended up having to cut that out in order for the studio to release it. And
I think I saw that version because literally there was stuff in when I first saw that movie, there was stuff in that movie so mind-bothering. But then when I saw it again, I'm like, wait, there was stuff in the movie that wasn't in this version of it.
Maybe you did. All I know is the original. So there's a big story about this amongst the, because it has a cult following nowadays. It was kind of panned. People didn't think it was a good movie at the time, which I don't know what makes good movies and bad movies. I just know what I like. And the footage, the film itself was being stored, now get this, in an underground vault, if I'm not mistaken, literally in an underground vault in like Transylvania or some part of Romania where it was being stored, and it got like oxidized. The film was ruined. And so the actual footage of some of that stuff they shot that ended up getting cut doesn't technically exist anymore. They did say that there is like some VHS copies of it out there, and there are some videos on YouTube that purport to be the missing footage. And it's just more of that, like, I had never seen a movie before that would flash just like one or two frames of something that you couldn't tell what it was, except that it like imprinted itself on your mind and you just knew that it was absolutely horrific.
It was literally scenes that you would think exist only in hell.
Exactly. I had never.
That was the thought that crossed my mind. And I hope that anybody wants to see this movie doesn't consider these spoilers, because we're really not giving away the ending of the movie. We're just talking about some of the things in the movie that bothered us. And there are some things in that movie that are very bothersome.
Very, like, I would not recommend, if you have any reservations about whether or not a movie, if you've ever been disturbed by movies, I'm not easily disturbed. That movie and The Exorcist are the two that have disturbed me for long periods of time.
So the other movie I would equate as disturbing as Event Horizon is the original Hellraiser.
I've never seen it, man.
Oh wow. Okay, well,
I gotta.
I don't know that it holds up. I have not seen that movie again. I only saw it one time.
Sure.
But there are some scenes in that movie when I first saw it that I was like, I wish I didn't see that now.
Yeah. Like I it's weird when you come across those things that leave that mark on you that affect you for a time. You know what I mean? And I have to wonder, like, I don't think I would change anything. Like, I don't think I would change the fact that I watched Event Horizon, even though it messed with me and I had trouble falling asleep for like, and even just going through my day, just because it was about stuff I already like worried about and thought about all the time. I was kind of a weird person, not weird, but I just had my own battles I was fighting, man. And it really spoke to them. I'll just say that. And, yeah, it's crazy when a piece of art does that.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
Crazy.
And, but anything science fiction, I'm going to go see it. And that was it was billed as a science fiction movie. Really, the reason I didn't expect what it turned out to be was because they didn't bill it that way in any kind of the promotional materials that were out there.
Yeah.
It was a pure science fiction space, not an opera, but just a space movie. And man, is it more than that?
It's funny. There's fan theories of stuff, right? How people get way out there with stuff. People have actually linked, it would take too long to explain, but people have actually linked Event Horizon, Doom, and 40K kind of all together. Because 40K involves Mars, where Doom takes place, and Event Horizon, they rip a hole in space-time to try to travel faster than light, and that's analogous to what they do in 40K. But in 40K, if you go into that, they call it the immaterium or the warp. If you tear a hole in space-time and go into the warp and you aren't protected using this special type of field, it is the dominion of absolute chaos and demonic entities and everything. And it is exactly like what you would see in what you saw in 40K or in Event Horizon.
Interesting. Okay, so that's straight out of the pages of a 40K novel, and it sounds like.
Exactly. And that's where the sci-fi horror aspect of 40K comes in, is everything in the material universe is there's a whole nother universe beyond the veil where all of these entities exist, and they feed off of the emotions and kind of like carnal aspects of humanity and other sentient races in the quote real world. So,
dude, now we're getting into some really interesting
and that's
areas
yeah
of discussion.
that's 100% what really got me into 40K. And the whole 40K universe is screwed up because those dark powers from across the veil appeal to certain people in humanity and basically develop devotees and followings that worship, and they call them the chaos gods. And dude, like there's 4 different chaos gods, and when the adherents of the different chaos gods acquire different blessings, quote blessings. And dude, it's so cool.
So you alluded to something when we were chatting, and you mentioned that you had an experience or several experiences throughout your life that would have fit in well with the Halloween edition.
Yeah.
You want to talk about that?
Yeah, sure. So I don't, like I'm very careful when I describe the nature of like the missions work I've done overseas, but I was fortunate enough to fall in with a group of like a small church in the town I live in, and they were legit. They were kind people. They were not like every negative portrayal of Christianity like you see. Just trying to give a little background to this. They were heavily involved in, small ragtag type missions trips over to East Africa, where they would literally, we tried to make it into a thing to where we could, go around and do speaking events and do all these things. And it never worked out, but we always planned to go over and visit our friends over there at a church there that we supported, indigenous people, no, not paying for any Americans or Westerners to sit over there. And, people just trying to get tax relief or whatever would give us money that we would use to like drill wells and stuff and do things like that for the people.
You mean water wells, right?
Yeah. Right. Wet water wells. Yeah. Yeah. Water wells. Absolutely. But funny enough, it was in Southern Sudan where, there's a ton of oil and there's like, there's other countries that are in there doing that. But, so we would go over there and just hang out with like, the local pastor. He's a guy my age, from Sudan. And we were always, we'd have like just like our Land Cruiser or something we borrow from somebody just to get around. And it's super hot, so you're always trying to find any kind of like lean-to place with a generator where you can find like a lukewarm Coke. You know what I mean? Because it's like 105 degrees out, brutal hot. So we pulled up in this little area, place we'd driven by and probably been outside. I've probably been to that place like many times. We go into this little like lean-to type shack, where we go to get some Cokes, and we're just like talking to the people there, whatever. And I hear this dog. Making like, it's like yelping, like somebody's being mean to it, really, is what I'll say. And it really bothered me. So I stepped outside and was just like, what in the hell is going on here? And everybody kind of looked at me like, what's he doing? Like, why is this guy like inquiring about, what I mean? Like, because I just heard an animal sounding like it was being hurt. And so it just provoked a response in me. And I looked over and there was this kid. You see a lot of people over there who have like polio type stuff. I think it's polio where like a limb will be like withered,
That's correct.
Yes. Yeah. So there's a lot of that over there. It's kind of weird if you grown up here, you've never seen it before. And this kid just had like a 2x4 or something. And he wasn't like seriously harming the dog, but he was being mean to this dog. And I just like, there was just something in me. I was like, what is going on here? And it got real weird real quick. And so the kid looked at me kind of like he was just a really weird looking kid. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not even talking about, the polio. I'm talking about just the look in his eyes. It's hard to describe. And so, um, I went back into the little building and was like, okay, I don't know what's going on here, but whatever, and we got our Cokes, and the pastor guy, as we're walking back out to our vehicle by the road, the pastor guy's like, hey, that kid, his dad is like a local like witch doctor. There's a lot of that there where you'll hear this person's a witch doctor, this person's a witch doctor, and people pay them to do this or that, and cast, hexes and stuff like that. And so I was like, oh, weird, just great. I don't necessarily believe in that. Like that's going to be a problem or anything, but we're sitting there talking, getting in the vehicle, and it was just like a jump scare, like out of a horror movie. I look up and look out the passenger or the driver's side window across from me. I was sitting shotgun, and look out the driver's side window, and that kid has the 2x4, like he's about 5 feet away from the car, and he has the 2x4 strung across like across his shoulders with his like withered hand kind of holding it up, and he cocks his head to the side, and his face was very like emaciated, very skull-like, and he cocks his head to this side, and this totally sinister smile forms on his face, and his eyes, dude, like I don't know how to explain it, but there was something inside there looking at me, and this giant thing of drool falls out of his mouth. And it was like there was this thing inside this kid saying like, yeah, like I dare you to try to do something, to help this kid or whatever. It was, I've never experienced anything like it before. And my friend sees it and it's like, oh my gosh. And we just drive off. And
so you weren't the only one to see it.
No.
That story gave me the freaking chills, dude. The hair on my arms is still standing up. So what it sounded to me like, he was in the pose of Jesus on the cross.
yeah, kind of.
Yeah. That's why it gave me the chills so bad, because I'm visualizing this kid in the same pose as Jesus on the cross.
Never thought
and when you told me the look on his face, and how that that is a creepy freaking story.
It was the sense, because like, I know a lot of people aren't going to be, a lot of people, some people might hear this and be like, oh my gosh, this dude's in one of those. Some people might hear it and be like, what are you doing? Like when we would go to different places, I mean, we're Christians, dude. Like when we would go to different places, like people want you to pray with them. You know what I mean? And so we would, and there was something in me that was like, I need to pray for this poor kid. You know what I mean? Like, and of course we would also extend, it wasn't just the thoughts and prayers thing. There was actual help being extended to these people. But I was just like, I just want to get to know what's going on with this kid. And that was kind of where I was coming from. And then to see him pop up and I could just tell that there was something behind the veil. It's like, I dare you to try to get in, to try to do something about this. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I've never felt, and dude, like, I mean, full disclosure, dude, I didn't do anything. I ran, man. You know what? Like, got out of there, dude. And yeah, I never even thought about that until you just put that, but that freaks me out just thinking about that. Yeah.
That was the first thing that popped into my head when you described how he was standing there with his head cocked to the side and that 2x4 across his shoulders with his arms kind of draped over it.
Now get this. So 2 years later, I always think about that kid because we drive up and down this road all the time. 2 years later, we were arriving in the area late, at night, completely pitch dark out. So as we're driving down the road, the only thing that you see is whatever flies in the view of the headlights. And that kid, we're driving along the road, and that kid is walking the opposite direction down the road. And it was 100% that kid. I mean, there's no way in hell it was anyone else. And when I saw it, it was like a spike of ice through my chest when I saw that kid again. Like, it was like another jump scare from a horror movie, man. And even my friend saw it too. The same guy. I went with the same guy each time. And he was, and I was like, dude, it's that kid, you know, and he was like, it was that kid, you know, but we were like, keep driving, just keep driving, you know. But
did the kid see you, or did he notice you?
No, he wouldn't have seen us, because it was just, you know, we were kind of going down the road.
It was night. Yeah. He could see past the headlights or in through the windows. Yeah.
Yeah. But in general, I feel like, you know, over there, I feel like a lot more people believe in the possibility of that realm existing behind the veil. And I just think in general, like, the more minds that are contributing that kind of energy, the more like out and open those types of things are going to be, man.
Yeah, that's an interesting experience that you had, man. What do you think it was? I know you said that it was something from another dimension or another reality, but you think it was a demon?
Yeah, I think so, man. I really do. I do. Like, I don't, you know, and again, am I thinking of some like horned, like, you know, cheesy horned like thing? No, it's like they're entities we can't even comprehend. You know what I mean?
You would probably really appreciate the conversation I had with Sandy Lene.
Right on.
She is the episode 10 in the Halloween edition.
Okay.
Fascinating lady. She's just a really sweet lady, but she's got an ability that few people have, and she's developed it to a level that enables her to see things and experience things that most humans would not even believe was true. But I think because of your experiences, I think you'll be able to really relate to what she's talking about.
I'd believe it, man. 100%.
Check it out. I think you'll dig it, man.
I will, dude. I will.
So, is there anything else that you'd like to talk about before we check out?
Man, man, I got all the 40K out of my system.
Yeah, we've been on it for 2 hours.
I apologize if I like ramble and go down rabbit holes and stuff.
Let me tell you something, brother. You are an interesting person. I'll listen to you talk for hours on end. It doesn't matter. No apologies needed.
Man, I appreciate you having me on, man. I'm sorry it took so long and the gaffes happened, but I'm out of school. So I survived that. And nah, man, it's just been great being on and chatting with you, dude.
All right, Randy, thanks for joining me for this sci-fi edition of Dead Hand Radio. I appreciate you being on here, man.
Thanks for having me, buddy.